All right, the stream is live and the microphones are recording.
Okay.
And note on the agenda, it says February 4th. There is an updated version of that, but we already printed these, so
yes.
didn't want to reprint them.
Okay. All right, I have 6 o'clock, so call meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Let's go ahead and do roll call. Doug?
Yep.
Michelle? Yes. Roger? Megan? Yes. Sarah? Here. Right. Motion to approve the agenda as presented or amended?
So moved.
Second. Right. Motion and second to approve the agenda as presented. Any questions? No, we'll go to vote. Doug?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Megan? Yes. Sarah?
Yes.
All right, on to the consent agenda.
Did we have police stats in our packet?
No. I can print them, though, at the end of the meeting if you want. I have them, I just forgot to print them out.
Or do we just strike it and then get them next meeting?
Whatever is your choice. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't take but a minute to print them, so.
You can just put them in the next packet. I'm fine with them.
Should we just strike it and put them in the next one? Okay.
Make a motion to approve minus number 6.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion and second to approve the consent agenda without number 6. Any other questions?
Any information on number 7?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, we'll go to vote. Michelle?
Yes.
Megan? Abstain. Sarah?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
All right, updates and presentations with city administrator.
Nothing outside of the budget and other things that have been here.
Perfect. We'll move on to new business. Number 9, Resolution 2608, joining Iowa Firefighters Association's Length of Service Awards Program.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right, motion and second to discuss.
Great. So this is a new program that I think is really favorable for us. The fire chief is out of town, but I felt like this was more of an employee benefit sort of thing and less of a fire-specific thing. So this is a length of service, sort of like a retirement plan, and we make a contribution, and the state's going to match 3 times basically what we do. And so this will be an annual expenditure. It'll cost us about between $4,000 and $4,300 a year but it will ensure that, people in the fire department that have been longstanding members, will have some sort of length of service benefit. The information about what LoSAP is in your packet. It's very detailed. There's a lot more information on the website, and it's something that I think that we should offer our fire department members.
It says here it's also EMS personnel and reserve.
That's going to be on there will be a different line item for the ambulance.
Okay.
And that's rolling into the ambulance pro forma that we put together for bringing the ambulance full time. So that'll likely come up in the next meeting.
So then it would be another 4,000 for EM.
It would be less because it's much fewer.
But it would be another fee for it.
It will be another fee. Like this amount is strictly for the fire department, which is kind of why I wanted to separate it out. For EMS, it'll be much less because the bench is much smaller. There's a lot more people in the fire department.
Any other questions? If not, we'll go to vote. Megan? Abstain. Sarah?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
All right, number 10, motion to discuss city 2027 budget.
Second.
All right, motion and second to discuss.
Super. All right. So in your packets on your desk, you'll see a proposed FY27 budget. Today we're not going to go through it line by line. I wanted to propose to you and just give a couple of general concepts. First of all, after like a couple of months of research, this is what I consider to be a worst case scenario. So this is the least amount of income that we're going to receive and the highest amount of expenditures. So there's still a couple of open questions with the state and with the county on some taxes that I thought we should be receiving that it doesn't look like we are or we aren't. So not major money, but a little bit here and there. So I've underestimated the revenues and I've overestimated the expenditures. So that as you're looking at this, there's not going to be any more surprises on the expense side. We could probably lower a little bit there and probably gain a little bit on the revenue side. So just want to give a couple of highlights. This budget is tied into what you all discussed as city goals last meeting. So there's money in here for trees. There's money in here for amenities. There's considerable investments being made both this year and proposed for next year at the pool and for Inger Park. Inger Park is scheduled to get a new shelter house and a new bathroom. The pool is scheduled to get remodeled bathrooms, updated amenities over there, and probably in this next fiscal year, really nice shade structure and some upgraded furniture that would really make it look fantastic. So you'll see a lot of these things tie into the city goals, which we'll talk about later. And then also, I did not have time to add the column, but I do have a column of some notes on these line items. So I'll send everybody an Excel spreadsheet of this budget with a couple of notes in the column, because there's some items here that aren't self-explanatory. And I apologize if you can get those notes in there, but I can email them to you tomorrow. So the first part is revenues. Most of the revenues are self-explanatory.
Does this take into consideration that proposed bill from Governor Reynolds about the property taxes?
Yes, although they haven't settled on that yet.
Right.
So what this does is this captures the maximum amount of property tax allowable by law for this coming up fiscal year. Those changes that they're talking about will be for future fiscal years.
28.
Right.
Okay.
Or whenever they decide or not decide. But so the state has already determined what the maximum amount of property tax that we can receive is. And then it's also not going to have a huge impact because what they're talking about is capping our general property tax and stuff like that. but it also gives us the ability to tax differently for debt and tax differently for employee benefits. So it's really, we're still going to have a taxing ability that's going to be above the 2% that they're proposing, because they're just proposing that in the general property tax bucket. So we have a lot of room to do stuff, but obviously this budget is trying to, go in the spirit of also what we're trying to do and keep expenses as low as possible. With that said, we've had some massive infrastructure and have some massive infrastructure projects coming up. So, and I keep an eye on that. I read everything about that bill and where it's at.
Does this reflect changes in sales tax compared
Yes.
to years past?
Yes, I don't look at years past as much as I look at what I think the economy is going to do. So with the local option sales tax, I think last year we had budgeted for I think over 60-something thousand for each bucket.
Mm-hmm.
I've reduced that down to $55,000 for each of the 3 buckets that it goes into. I do think that the economy is going to have a downturn in 2026. I think it's going to be significant, and that's going to impact the sales tax. If it doesn't, happy to be surprised and capture that revenue.
Well, just losing businesses in town,
Yes.
grocery store.
Yeah. So I did reduce it down. I think it's appropriate at $55,000 per bucket. So that's about $165,000 total. And we'll keep an eye on it. And if the downturn is more significant than anticipated, then we can always do a revenue budget amendment at that time when it looks like what it's going to be. Right. And then after the revenue model, we've got the expenditure model broken down by department. Most of this is self-explanatory. Usually when there's a transfer out at the bottom of a department, that is money that is going toward a debt. So usually transfers out of something is a transfer in to a debt fund that pays down a bond. So for example, on the fire, you'll see a transfer out. Last year it was $20,000, this year it's $25,000. And I put the $20,000 towards the truck purchase, the pumper truck down payment, and then an extra $5,000 for that length of service program. So I'm still waiting to hear back from the auditor on where they want us to reflect the length of service program for the fire department. So for right now, I just have it in transfers out, and we'll put it in the appropriate bucket once I get a word from the auditor. The ambulance, obviously the ambulance service, I have budgeted for the increase in what we've been talking about taking it full time. So there's significant increase in some of the expenses there. Most everything else is pretty in line with last year. I put salaries and wages for employees at 3%. We've talked now for a couple of years about cost of living increases. Not raises, but they're cost of living increases. So we're going to go 3% across the board proposed, except for me. Again, I'm going to forego cost of living increase so that we have a little bit more to be able to spread around to everybody else. And the pool salaries have gone up a little bit. We're anticipating a longer season than last year, and we're also anticipating some night swims, which will increase the payroll there. There is money in here for trees. I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but one of the goals was to regain our Tree City USA designation, so we budgeted for that. Everything else is pretty straightforward. So I thought what we would do is I'll send you my notes on this column tomorrow, and then I would like, so that we have the most efficient use of time, is between now and the next meeting, if there are line items that you disagree with, if there are departmental expenditures that you disagree with, I would like to compile those, and then at the next meeting, we just go through the disagreed line items one by one and just do a line item vote on each one, just so that we don't have to have 4 or 5 meetings to go over every, every ingredient in the sausage. So, and then if you just want to email me or call me, I'll compile everything on a spreadsheet, and then we'll just go through line item by line item. And then if there's questions on any of these line items, a lot of them are fresh in my head, some of them are not. Some of these expenditures we make once a year, and we have to look it up and figure out what it is. So if you want to talk privately at all about any of these, just call me or pop into City Hall, and we can talk about any of the specifics. So that's where we're at, and happy to spend as much time with all of you as needed to get you a full picture. Also, at the end, don't be alarmed. The revenue and expenditure differential is about $900,000, but we have $450,000 that is sitting in the local option sales tax that hasn't been allocated yet. So with a $900,000 deficit reflecting in the budget, half of that is immediately compensated for by that lost sales tax that's unallocated at this point. And then the expenditures are also overestimated. I know of at least $100,000 of overestimated that, as we're getting more information, like from the insurance company, we don't have the quote yet for the insurance. So I've overestimated on insurance costs and so on and so forth. So I don't think we're in a super bad position. And obviously we'll have to come out of some of our funds, which is by design. We have a lot of funds that have been sitting dormant for years, with this fund with $10,000 in it, that fund with $20,000. Nothing new is going in there, and those funds are getting decimated by inflation. So it's more important that we get those spent and allocated so that they have some value before inflation makes a $10,000 account, basically worthless. So the plan this year is to get a lot of those accounts spent down and have a really solid capital improvement plan, which you saw last meeting, and really have a holistic understanding of what it costs to run the city, so that we're not just hoarding money for something that we think may or may not happen like we know it. So I feel pretty good about the numbers, and like I said, happy to answer any questions now or anytime in the near future.
Well, I have just one question. When I was looking at this in the past week, we've got the revenues, we've got the expenditures. Obviously, the expenditures are always more heavy than the revenues, typically in any budget. But I don't know what actually you're talking about monies that we might already have that I don't know we have. But we have our banking accounts.
Yeah, I can get you our fund balance.
Yes.
I can email that to everybody tomorrow. That just shows every fund and how much cash is in it.
Yes.
In my notes, which is why that's important to get tomorrow when I send you the spreadsheet, it has, if something isn't allocated from a tax that we're collecting or from a charge that we're charging somebody for, like electric or water, it says in the notes what fund it's coming out of. So those two will work like side by side, and I'll just email them at the same time so that when you see the note and this expenditure, it'll say 30,000 coming out of this fund, 10,000 from this fund.
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah, and they correspond pretty well.
That'd be great to have that information. Yep.
Super.
Any other questions, comments? No? Now we'll move on to number 11, motion to discuss city ambulance service. Okay, second. Motion second.
Super. So as we discussed at the last meeting, this is the final documents of the proposal to bring the ambulance service to a full-time service. I have a draft job description and a draft employment agreement, and so what I'm looking for today is consensus to post the job description and open up that period for probably a couple of weeks, and And then, once this gets posted in the March 4th meeting, I'll bring a budget amendment forward. I don't think we need to update our ordinance or anything like that, so I'll bring forward the budget amendments. That'll be based on the numbers in the pro forma that I gave you in the last meeting. And then the ambulance director is here to answer any questions. I can answer any questions, and we've both reviewed the job description and the employment agreement sample.
So the employment agreement, and the ambulance director will be reporting to you?
Correct.
Directly?
Yep.
And you will be reporting to us as your findings are, whether or not he's meeting his goals or not?
Yeah, so there's benchmarks in the agreement, and then just like we issue police stats every month, we'll also have an ambulance department. I've already been thinking about things that should go in that report, obviously like the number of calls, the number of pages, the number of times that we responded, total, what we're charging insurance companies and users of the ambulance, how much we've collected, what the total outstanding accounts receivable are. Basically, I want to have a dashboard for you so that we're looking at the ambulance service and knowing if we're hitting our benchmarks. And you'll notice in the employment agreement, there's one of my pet peeves is when there's an invoice, like it's got to get invoiced, all the paperwork has to be in. So one of the benchmarks for the employment agreement is that 100% of charges are, completed paperwork. They're submitted to our third-party biller. We're monitoring that. We're making the receivables calls. That's all on the ambulance director to oversee, and it's on me to oversee that. Right now, one of the issues that we faced with the volunteer department and not paid on call is that there's like no incentive for people to get the paperwork done on time. So like we've had some calls where the paperwork might linger, and there were a couple instances where the paperwork lingered almost to the point where we couldn't bill for it anymore, and I lost my mind. And just like that's something we really need to be on top of, because if we're going to full time, we need to make sure that at least for the calls that we can get paid for, we're getting paid for them. So
paid on call is two EMTs for the remaining hours of the week, or?
Correct. So we'll have the ambulance director business hours during the week, and
what would those hours be?
We can determine those hours. So whether we want to do 8 to 4, or 7 to 3, or 9 to 5, like whatever we decide, but it'll be 40 hours. So I haven't really looked at, the call log is no indication of what the calls next week are going to be. So I don't think there's a real strategic way to figure out what the hours should be. So it'll probably be 8 to 4, which is what our city hall hours are.
And then what would the on-call EMTs get, did you say now?
What was it?
The on-call EMTs to cover the other time, what would they get paid an hour?
Do you remember what we had in the?
Yeah, so my proposal to Dino as far as on-call hours is we need to put police back into the business of being police officers. My goal is to have police become kind of like our backup of the main providers out on a call. They're here to cover anything that would happen in between, right? My proposal was $5 an hour for on-call. That would be nights and weekends. That would be with the full-time director being 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. The other thing that I have proposed is because, some weekends and holidays, nobody's really going to step up and take those up. That would be a rotation shift. So if Brandon takes call this Saturday, maybe he covers the first 12 hours. We have a second provider cover the back 12. We want people to spend time with their families. That's been one of the biggest struggles of the volunteer model, is we all have jobs, we all have kids, we all have sports, the whole 9 yards. So if we kind of break up those hours and alternate those shifts and holidays, then I think it'll be a lot easier for the crew members that aren't associated with a position within the city already to be like, okay, I can probably pick up that 8 to midnight, And the other thing we got to keep in consideration is these guys do have to get up
So then are we requiring the ambulance director to pick up some of those on-call hours?
I volunteered, if I were to become the full-time service director, I told Dino that I would make myself available, whether it be, like, if we don't have coverage Wednesday night, well, maybe, I don't work Wednesday morning and I do like a noon to 5 p.m. and then I'm on call afterwards,
Right, but I'm just saying, we're asking people that work a 9 to 5 to be on call, but we're not asking our own employees that work a 9 to 5 to be on call. Is that?
You're gonna run into
Is that setting a good example?
you're gonna run into state payment laws with that, because we're already being compensated as salary. So I can't justify going to Brandon and say, hey, Brandon, I need you to pick up 48 hours of on call when he's already salaried. Because at that point, it's our free will.
For those salaried hours.
Correct.
Not if he's off duty
Right.
from a police standpoint, we can still have on-call.
You can't mandate somebody who's already put in 40 hours into a city activity.
We can't mandate it, but if somebody
They
volunteers.
can most certainly,
They can
most certainly
yeah.
pick it up. We would just be picking it up voluntarily.
So you just say that you're trying to get the cops to go back to just their positions?
Yeah, he's not saying he would,
Right.
he's talking about,
So I guess I'm asking is how many EMTs would be left if they're gonna be your backup?
So I've always kind of tried to exclude them as much as possible,
Mhm.
right? And so right now, there was 672 hours in the month of February. I covered 100 hours as director. I put in 60 hours, scheduled myself for 60 hours of on-call to fill some of the holes. Brandon and Levi are both sitting with about 150 hours scheduled. And obviously, my first process in that was to fill the holes where I knew we had zero coverage, right?
So I guess I'm asking if they're gonna go do their police thing and maybe not be on call, how many EMTs do you have then?
Tucker and Levi, or Tucker and, two.
So you would have 3 people that would be qualified to go on call.
But also part of the purpose of having a paid on-call is that we're hoping to attract other area providers that will join.
Right,
the
I just
service.
feel like we're depleting and not building up.
Well, it's not
you
gonna
know?
happen immediately, it's a transition, so, and it's all dependent on if we can attract other people to join the service. Obviously, if we can't get other people to join the service, it's not gonna work out, right? So the whole concept of the paid on-call is to encourage others to join. If they don't,
Right, are we just throwing money at a problem that's?
Right.
Right, so that's why we want to do it for a year as a test case and
Right.
see, if we make this investment, is it going to pay off? But if we're in the same position now, a year from now, where it's, 3 providers and the police, I can tell you immediately it's not going to work. Like, this hinges on us attracting other service providers to cover some of these on-call. Because right now, they're not going to do it for free. They're not going to come and sit around town and wait for a call. So that's the hope. And that's why we don't want to make this a long-term commitment without having a test case where, we need to make it happen, but we need to probably triple the number of providers that we have.
We've tried this in the past and it didn't pan out, so I'm just a little
Yeah.
hesitant about the whole thing.
When have we ever tried to not call pay?
Not on call, we've tried a full-time person, right?
Correct.
Nate
correct.
Post was in here.
So you guys did have a previous full-time director.
Correct.
I think we all know Stan's case in that. And like I told Dino, obviously we knew this question was going to come up. I can't speak on what happened in the past. I wasn't here during that time period.
Mhm.
I think since I've taken over, we have been trying to recruit. We're at the mercy of the colleges right now. NICC CMS program is not the strongest as it used to be, so trying to get classes scheduled through there has been very tiring. A lot of the services switched over to Mount Mercy Health Sciences out of Cedar Rapids for classes. Mount Mercy has a very, very strict clinical pool, and unfortunately it's hard to get students into the areas where there is a Mercy College campus to get their clinical hours in. 2 services have tried it, both of them have come back to me and said that they're not sure they're going to. I have reached back out to NICC and asked what options are available currently. They are trying to structure it to be like a full-time after high school program, like you would a normal career program. So those classes are during the day, they're 3 days a week. It's message out to Hawkeye. Hawkeye has a brand new EMS coordinator, and so I reached out to her to see what her thought process was on trying to help some of the rural services be able to get people certified. And the outreach is there. It's just, if we can't, there's plenty of people around here that are EMS. They just don't move on to paid services. So if we could try and lure some of that back in, then it helps us achieve our end goal. We're a year to date away from our next inspection. I can't promise you what that looks like today. And it's from a state level, not from me.
Right.
So how many,
Go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
how many people have contacted you that have wanted to take a class? I mean, like you're looking for classes, but how many people want to take the class?
Well, obviously, we have one of our officers, PD officers, that needs to go through the program, and I have potentially 3 to 4. One of them, based on one of the classes that I'm looking at, she could be having a baby around then, but she has said that once that calms down, she would be very interested in.
What's the turnaround time, like, if we got somebody signed up for a class, length of time to get certified?
You're looking at, the class itself is about 6 months long.
Okay.
The one that I'm actually looking at right now is a hybrid class, so it's all online other than lab days and field days. And that one's 6 weeks. So you're taking a 6-month class and you're compacting it into 6 weeks. That's a pretty fast turnaround.
Yeah.
Getting them to the test center, that's been a challenge lately. I mean, not just with Strawberry, it's been a challenge across the board. Students don't feel like they are properly educated to go take the exam. And the new exam model is hard. It's not built for the light, you know, so, and I think that kind of dissuades people from doing it. The people that have came in approaching me about taking the class, I have committed to them that if I'm still with the service, I will very much help with the study groups. I will go to the schools and help teach the class. I can do all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can get them across the finish line. I just got to get them to the start line.
Yep.
You know, so and that's the challenge.
So the last 10 classes we've paid for within the city, how many have stuck?
4.
So they have passed and they've stayed with
One
us?
has not passed, but he has attempted the test twice.
Okay.
He's getting ready to do his 3rd attempt before
Okay.
he has to do a refresher. One of them obviously left with no notice. And the other one, I had a serious conversation with him earlier this week and asked him what his intentions were, because he took it, he failed it, and got dissuaded from going back. And I told him, I'm like, I need you to go exhaust your 2 attempts.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you fail it, you need to take the refresher, we'll set up a study group. But I'm like, I need you to go exhaust your 2 attempts.
And then how many certified people are in the area that you think we could bring to the service?
I mean, there's plenty of certified people, it's just they gotta be able to see that they have support from their current crew, support from their cities, support, you know, that
What is
they're gonna get
the
paid.
RN program? Because you can be an RN.
There is an RN, you can be an RN exempt. I actually talked to 2 nurses of lately, but again, you're looking at, everybody keeps thinking that we're gonna stick with this volunteer model, and to have somebody who works at Regional or Mercy and they put in 12-hour shifts there, and then they come here and, you know, there's nothing to push them to do it. So I think if we could incentivize them to do something to pick up the shift, you know, I mean, we average 1 call a day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have 4 calls in 1 week. We all witnessed that within the last 4 days. You know, I mean, it's been completely.
But that's hard, but it's like when you say, we only have 1 call a week, and then it's like, we're gonna spend $1,200
But
a
that's
week for on-call people to have 1 call a week, you know what I mean?
But would you like to not have ambulance service in Strawberry, Michelle?
I don't think that's.
That's not even, like, that's not fair.
That's
not what I'm saying.
I don't think you're saying, I
That's not
don't
right.
think you're saying that at all, Michelle, but I think we all need to have the realization that rural services are dying.
I agreed.
So we can either try something, and if it fails, we're gonna go out with a bang. But if we sit here and we keep doing the exact same thing, expecting a different result, that's chaos. That is literally the definition of chaos. So we have a year to get our call volume up over 100, or we face the potential of losing our transport license. And then we become an EMR service, nobody gets paid, you're gonna have to still pay another service to come handle your transport, And what's that gonna do to our community? I understand what I'm asking you is huge as far as financial numbers. If we could pull this off, and we do go to full-time, and we have people taking those, I told Vino, there's no reason why we're not hitting 95% of our transport. And if we start hitting those numbers, for those of you who were here when Teresa was here, we made bank. We made bank.
But if you don't transport, you don't get paid, is that correct?
Correct. And
So
that's-
when we
that's-
tier up with somebody else, you don't get paid, or you
So,
don't?
no, we do get paid for that call. So like, for example, yesterday I had a tier with Mercy One. And so I gave her the option. Resources were tight yesterday across the entire county for all ambulances. And I gave the paramedic an option. I said, you can either tier with me or you can take the patient, whatever's gonna get all of us back to our bases quicker. And she said, well, Mercy's full, I'll just ride with you. You can bill the patient, and that's what we do. I'll pay Mercy their tier fee for having a paramedic jump in our truck, but I get to bill the patient. And we take this from, so my base rate for a BLS call, non-emergent BLS call, is $600. That's to open up the garage door and pull our truck, right? When we move to ALS provider on a truck, 90% of the time, our base rate was from $600 to $1,400. So Teresa being on all those calls is what saved this ambulance prior to her demise. And I'm not saying it's gonna be fun, I'm not saying it's gonna be easy, we're gonna have more conversation.
It'll be worth it.
It will be worth it. I think the mere fact that we're doing something for our community alone, I think once the trucks start getting put out, people start hearing the sirens, they're gonna become more involved. That in of itself generally creates enough interest for people to join the service. And, you know, like I told you, know, 5 years down the road, maybe we can look at doing a hybrid where we have a couple paid people and the rest are all going back to volunteers, you know. But we have to fix something today or we're not gonna have it tomorrow.
So I have one more question about the drivers. So are the drivers on call too then? So they
So-
would be paid on call?
So, that is the goal. Obviously, I know some people like the model of being able to just, I happen to be here tonight, can I help? You know, I've had a couple drivers reach out to me, and I told them that I'm not opposed to doing that, but they still have to understand that there is a stipulation that you have to attend meetings and trainings. If you're not attending the meetings and trainings, you have no idea what the new state protocols are. You have no idea Dr. Salas and the director have changed protocols locally. You have no idea where equipment is in the truck, how to operate said equipment, any of that stuff.
Do you think you would have had enough drivers, like given some of the fire department people, that we would not have to pay them on call? Because I feel like that would be a yes, in my eyes.
But
You wouldn't-
there's a difference in on-call. You're legally obligated to show up if you're on call. If it's just a volunteer service,
But you've never not had a driver.
I don't know. if
My,
that's true or not.
I will argue that. I have showed up at the station at midnight to when we've gotten paid shop and have not been able to get a driver. And I have asked county to do all call for fire, to wake up fire, and I have not gotten anybody for fire group. I'm not saying that to be a dick, I'm not saying that to be rude, disrespectful, or anything, it's just the fact of it. At least if we go,
Both ways, right?
if we have an on-call schedule, everybody knows who's showing up to that call.
I was just trying to think saving money, I guess.
I completely understand, I do. You're only gonna be paying on call if you guys decide to do a full-time service director from 8 to 4, just throwing numbers out there. You're only paying on call for everybody else from 4 p.m. through 8 a.m. the next morning, and weekends. Okay? Currently, our on-call system is everybody gets paid $1 per hour from midnight Friday through 6 a.m. Monday.
I think we have to.
Do you get out of bed for $1? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I've talked to some of your current drivers, they are not willing to do the on-call.
I don't know exactly which two you're talking about.
Well, I only talked to one, but whatever. I'm just saying, will we have enough, I guess?
I think once we advertise this, people will roll with it.
I think we have to try something. I mean, if we want to keep our ambulance service going.
I think it's important to keep it going, we gotta figure out.
And I don't think that you don't think it's important.
Yeah,
And I've
I
said that
definitely-
before, but we've always agreed on
Let them
that.
deliberate.
So
what stipulations do we have now for people that go through the class? Do we have any financial repercussions if they
I thought they had,
go through the class and then don't follow through with,
didn't they have to pay it back?
well, I guess, what do we have on paper? Nothing?
So they signed a contract, it's a prorated one, I was trying to find it this morning, I got sidetracked with everything else going on in town today. They signed a 2-year agreement, and it's basically a proration based off of how many calls that they've answered within the length that they've stayed active with the service. The people who have signed that contract that have disappeared and never came back, the city has never upheld that end. And I kind of see the point of it, you know, is it worth spending city attorney money to chase
Right.
$2,000?
Right.
You know, it's gonna cost more than attorney fees.
I'm just thinking going forward, if we do get a whole hubbub of people and people excited and they want to do this, I just want to make sure we're going to be covered as far as expenses too, like.
I proposed to Dino that him and I sit down and revisit that student contract. The previous service director, it's kind of difficult,
Sure.
if you ask me, and clear as mud.
Yeah.
So I asked Dino if all this comes through before we send our next group or
Sure.
a couple students through the program, that if him and I can sit down and look at it, and we both agreed we want to get through this meeting
Sure.
first.
Yep.
But the on-call model also helps us to avoid having to build our crew by just putting people through the classes.
Sure.
Like, there's plenty of qualified people who could be on our service that don't want to.
Yep.
Our thesis is that if we go to this paid on-call, we get those people.
Yep.
And we don't have that expense of having to put everybody that's gonna join our crew on through the
Like, I will
classes.
just do Tuesdays, or I will just do Thursdays, or I will, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That for me would be great.
Yeah.
For us,
Right.
that's when you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
somebody
like,
to
yeah.
do every Tuesday,
Yeah.
boom, 24 hours covered.
Right.
So,
So we're trying to come up with a salary, right? Is that what you're?
there would be a range. I think what we would do
Put it-
is, we would put the job post up, see who responds, and see what's available, and then determine what that salary rate is, you know, after we have some more data. You know what I mean? If we get 10 outstanding, you know, applicants, including him, we'll have a really good understanding of where we need to be. You know, if we get 2, including him, we'll have an even better understanding of where
Even
we
if
need to be.
will you not get very many people, or you're just gonna post a range in the paper, is that what?
No, it's gonna be posted on jobs.com, Indeed.
You're not even going to post salary, no salary.
Oh, no, we'll put a range.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, you gotta post something, or you're
No,
not
we'll
gonna
put,
get people to
we'll put a
apply.
salary range, but it'll be wide.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be wide.
Alright, so I need a motion with some direction.
I make a motion that we post the job listing, job description.
You don't need to do a motion, I just need a
Oh,
consensus,
okay.
and then I'll post it, because the job already exists,
Okay.
so I'll post it and then.
I have another question. Is there any potential for like, and this might be like way out there, but is there any potential for job sharing? Like, say Arlington's looking for a director, or like, and we can do like, our director can do the paperwork from there and share the expense of this person? And
I
just do the
can-
paperwork part of it? You know, I don't
Yeah.
know if, you know, any shared, you know, is Volga or
Yeah.
Edgewood, or, I don't know, I'm just throwing names
Yeah.
out, I don't know. Is there a potential for another town to be looking for a director that doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, that can do the paperwork portion of it?
Right.
And that would share in our expense?
I don't want to speculate one way or another, but what I can do is I can call the administrators of all the neighboring cities and float the question and see where they're at with their service, what are they trying to accomplish, are our goals aligned, and is there any opportunity for an economy of scale?
Because, I mean, that would be a benefit to them too, to have
Sure.
some, I mean, that would give them access to a
Yeah.
person 8 to 4 o'clock every single day of the week
Yeah.
too.
I
No,
don't think we
I-
can be the only town struggling, I'm sure there's several out there that are.
Everybody's
Yeah,
struggling.
everybody's
Yeah.
struggling right now.
So I'll make those calls, and, you know, and if that's
I mean,
you know,
just conversations can't hurt.
of course not, and I totally agree. So I'll make the calls, compile the notes, and then, if anything, that would just buttress, you know, the underlying pro forma proposal. So, I'm happy to make those calls.
Is that something we should do before we post it?
I don't think so.
Okay, I just didn't wanna be like, oh, by the way, you're now taking over 2 more towns.
I think I feel like, honestly, like, very little in life keeps me up at night. This keeps me up at night. We have an aging population here. We have seemingly an increase in calls and needs, and I feel like the rolling rock is like right behind us, and we're making it happen. We're skating. We're getting lucky, but we're gonna pay the piper sooner or later. And I think that this is the type of community that needs this type of service, that needs to have this coverage. And what we're learning is that volunteerism isn't what it used to be, and civic duty isn't what it used to be, and people who are paying and then dedicating their time, isn't what it used to be. And we just need to pay to get it done, and that's an unfortunate reality. And I hate to be the person to bear that news, but I think it's the truth.
Yeah.
So if we can find some economies of scale, I'm all for that. I think that would be great, and I'll make those conversations in good faith and see if we can make something happen. But if not, I think this is something we really need to do, because it's getting scary.
It needs to be successful.
It needs, of course it does, yeah. So.
Yeah, I think we need to get it posted.
So is there general consensus? Any questions? You look like you had a question, Doug.
No, I just want to concur with Michelle. Has a great idea with looking at these small towns around us and working with them.
Mm-hmm.
We just have one director and helping them too. So
Yeah. No, I think that's great. So we could have a conversation about a consolidated territory and share all sorts of resources. So I'll start making those happen. Again, I don't want those to slow this process down.
No.
And if there is a way to have that happen, I think it should all happen under the guise of we're going to do this regardless.
Yeah.
And like I said, we don't know if it's going to work out perfectly or not, but we have the money in reserve to try it. It's not going to harm us to give it a year and have that give us a great indication if it's going to work long term or not. And I feel like if we're in the financial position to give it a try, and we don't, that we're sort of failing a duty to at least give it a shot.
Mm-hmm. Great idea. Sometimes you got to think outside the box.
There is no box.
It's a circle.
Okay, very good. All right.
Anything else on that item?
No.
All right, we'll move to number 12, motion to reconsider resolution 2604, approving TextMyGov text communication tool.
Right, so before there's a motion in a second, I just want to explain. So this was that thing that you voted on at the last meeting. It got voted down. I didn't put it on here as a motion to reconsider as a way to be in your face. I put it on there in case the feedback from the public sways minds. I put it on there so you could have the opportunity to change the mind and reconsider. So I don't want it to be taken as a slight or anything like that. It's just there for the mechanical purpose of doing it. So with that said, now you can get your motion in second.
Motion.
I'll second.
All right, motion second to reconsider.
Great. So after the last meeting, I was asked to get some community input with a simple yes or no question. So we put together a very neutral, very non-pushy explanation of what this tool is, and we put it out to a vote. We got 149 responses through the Facebook forum, and 141 people said yes, that they would like to use a tool like that, and 8 people reported no. So it was a pretty overwhelming response. It wasn't as many people as the pool, so there's that. But so the graph is in there with the stats. There's not a lot of more information because it was just a yes or a no. But it's there. If anybody wants to reconsider the motion, you can be my guest.
Well, I'll start if nobody says anything to start with. I was probably one of the 8 that said no. And there's reason for that. I was in business for 30 plus years, plus a citizen here in Strawberry Point. And I think there's probably a handful of times in those 30 years where I really, really felt like I wasn't informed. Like I didn't get enough information on you know, the electrical outages or, water and sewer issues or anything else about the town of Strawberry Point. Now granted, we didn't have texting 15, 20 years ago, but even if we did, I still cannot see a need at the cost. And that's kind of, you know, it's kind of bothers me too that you put this out into the public, or we put this out there to the public without the actual cost. It's $2,500, doesn't mean a lot when you're talking at a $4 million budget, but $2,500 a year is, to me, quite a bit of money for, you know, a handful of problems over 30 years. That's why I just don't see the need for it. I
Yeah.
think we've got law enforcement here in town, if they have to do something to let citizens know. We've got people that work for the city that if there's a water problem, they can let us know. I think we're well covered without this texting.
I think we've
It's only
become
cheap, but.
a day and age where that is a lot of communication, and it's more than just an outage, it's a lot of things, you know, and there's things going on in the city that it can be easily communicated to anyone. And that's just kind of, technology's become the way to do things in this day and age.
I think sometimes too much information causes a problem too. So putting out too much information to people, I think, creates an issue.
Well, here's a perfect example. We had a transformer box blow open today over in front of one of the businesses on the west side of town, and the power is going to be out tomorrow to about 8 houses. So the entire city is going to have to be notified when, with the texting tool, only those 8 houses where the outage was going to go could be targeted and texted. So, like, to your point, you know, the whole town will be talking about the power outage and is it going to affect me, even though we might just put the addresses on Facebook.
But nobody knows right now, right?
But nobody knows what.
The power outage. I didn't
Well,
know about
I have to
it
put it
till
on.
just now.
I have to put it on Facebook after the.
Right, and you could
Yeah.
just put the residents were notified. I mean, if it's 8 houses, that don't take long to knock on a door.
Well, if they're not
Right.
home,
You
that's a
leave
big
a
deal.
note.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't have a strong horse in this race.
You're right.
It's a convenient tool. It has a lot of advantages. I'm from the texting generation, so that's my primary way to communicate with most people. So, but again, I'm not trying to influence the vote one way or another. It's a nice tool that we would utilize. If we decide not to use it, it won't change how we do things currently.
I mean, we did ask to have the public input, and it's overwhelmingly yes. So I think we should also,
Well,
Take into
149 votes, so that's
for the
not-
people that
Right.
did choose to
That's
respond,
true.
it's overwhelmingly yes.
Yeah.
So I think that we have to take that into account as well.
We also, you know, we have our social media resources, our web page. We also have a local newspaper that we can encourage people to subscribe to get information about our city and what's going on. I mean, we have these things. Now we're going to add another layer to it. It just seems like it's a slap in the face to everything else that you have. And I don't know. I'm kind of a stubborn one.
that is totally okay.
All right, anything else? Okay. So
You have a motion and a second, so just for the sake, we should probably take a vote just to end it, or whatever, however the vote may be. We
Sure.
should, yeah.
Yep. All right, so reconsidering resolution 2604, we'll go to vote. Sarah?
Yes.
Doug?
No.
Michelle?
No.
Megan?
No.
All right, well, thank you for doing that poll.
Sure.
Yes.
All right, number 13, motion to adopt city goals.
Super. Okay, so in your packets, you'll see a proposed city goals. These are, some of them have been things that we have been talking about for a couple of years, and some of them were new from the last meeting. And so got it down to about 6 goals and then a couple of discussion topics that we'll need to sort out in order to, add to these if possible. Goal number 1 is to bring population growth back to about 1,400 residents. How do we do that? Stimulate housing development, attract and retain young families, reduce barriers to development, and then we also have about $36,000 in CDBG rehab housing fund. So we could offer some demolition grants to take down houses that are, dilapidated and vacant. And we could do those with the caveat that, like, to get the grant, you have to contractually agree to build a house. We don't want to give away grants to just tear it down and have a grassy knoll. So those we would make sure to lock down to new housing developments. Number 2 goal, enhance recreation options, so maintain high quality amenities like the parks and the pool. As you've seen in the budget, or as you'll see it as you go through, there are a lot of investments in Inger Park and the pool facility, and just in this fiscal year and the next fiscal year. Can also consider adding a dog park. I know the inner area of the walking track might be a really good place for a dog park. So we can certainly consider that. 3rd goal is to maintain high quality property standards. How do we do that? Better enforcement of out of compliance properties with increased municipal infractions. Then we can also take some of that CDBG rehab fund and maybe give grants for roofing, facades, gutters. Again with the caveat that if you're getting a small grant from the city, that it has to go toward a project. There's ways to lock it down to make sure that those actually happen. Another goal is a walkable city, maintain high quality sidewalks, crosswalks and ramps, enforce code standards. We have some, sidewalks that are publicly used sidewalks, but they're technically private property with an easement. So there's a question mark about who owns it and who's on the hook to maintain it. I have to work my way through what our inventory is and see what are the things that we can do and what we can't do. Look at the curbs. I know it was Roger that brought up the big step down curbs, so I haven't had time to drive through town and take an inventory of those and see what it would take to turn those into a ramp or not, but that is something that we could prioritize for 2027 or this fiscal year 27. Another goal was to achieve the Tree City USA designation again, so we looked into that. In order to do that, we need to reestablish the Parks Board or Park/Tree Board, and have that board be legally responsible for the care of trees. Obviously, our city staff would do the work, but the board would oversee the tree policy and stuff like that. We would adopt a tree care ordinance. We might already have one on the books. I haven't had time to look, so that's easy to do. They want us to spend $2 per capita. So we're looking at $2,500 a year in trees, which I put in the budget. So that is a budget line item that would satisfy them. And then have a proclamation observing Arbor Day, which we've probably done in the past. Happy to do it in the future. So I think we can easily achieve that designation, in the next fiscal year. And then.
Wasn't there a grant we used to get, when we get money from?
That was through Black Hills, I don't know if they still do.
Okay. I knew there used to be money
Where there
there.
was trees, you could just go get.
That's
something out there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next, encourage community involvement. So one of the, I know the Heart and Soul program is moving forward, so I put some money in the budget to support that, to underwrite whatever we don't raise in donations for us to participate. I know there's been a call to have council involvement and more visibility at public events, maybe a float in the parade, and then better communication about community events. So, we have the calendar up on our website. We'll do more to share that stuff on Facebook and on the website and in the newspaper. And then the 2 points of discussion pertain, again, we've had these discussions before, but I figure we have to, at least look at it every year. The museum and the civic center. So the museum is having an irrigation issue that is realistically going to cost $30,000 to $50,000 to resolve.
We need to get rid of that.
And then on the civic center, we're investing, $50,000 to $70,000 a year on the civic center, and that's you know, again, it's been noted that, you know, it's important that we have a daycare in town, and I totally agree with that. But I wouldn't be doing my duty if I didn't bring you these numbers and have a realistic conversation about how much the city and the taxpayers should be underwriting, you know, these two entities that are not city entities. I thought, any feedback on the goals? Am I missing anything? Is one of these too, you know, too aggressive, not aggressive enough? I'm happy to take the feedback. Or if you're happy with the goals the way they are, you could adopt them tonight. And then again, the discussion points are just discussion points.
Talking about the walking trail, like, I noticed the sidewalks just keep getting worse down there, like, I mean, is it just a matter of we gotta tear them out and start over? Like, what is the solution?
Yeah. It's wet back
It
there.
is.
so wet.
It's
If it wasn't so
yeah.
wet, it probably wouldn't be as bad.
We
But-
fixed the tile last year,
Yep.
which should, but,
Sure.
damage is done.
Yeah.
I would think if it doesn't get worse, another option would be like overlay asphalt, couple
Oh,
of
sure.
asphalt. Would be way cheaper than trying to do all
Sure,
concrete.
okay,
There's options, so
Yeah.
we need to get drainage fixed.
sure, yep, okay. I can't remember where we left the museum last year. Was the board
Did they-
open to purchasing the building or being gifted the building?
No, they said that they're not in a financial position to do it. Now, I did have a conversation with them, and I promised confidentiality. They did share with me the amount of money
Sure.
that they had in
Yeah.
their reserves. And then that money is restricted funds. They get interest on that money every year and pay for their operations out of that. So, in my opinion, it would be challenging for them to own the building with all of the maintenance costs that are coming up. That is not to endorse us covering those costs. That's just to let you know, like, what the reality is. They would not be able to cover the expenses without dipping into their reserves, and it would be a significant dip into their reserves to pay for that. So I think it's a really difficult decision. If the city is going to continue to underwrite that expense.
But we shouldn't, like, that's just, they're not bringing us any revenue and we're just continuing to put money into something.
Yes, but that is an attraction to our city.
But it's not making the city any money, Doug.
Well,
It's
well,
not
when you
really-
talk about, now you go about the top line item up here, population of the city is not gonna grow if we keep shutting everything down.
I'm not talking about shutting it down, but we can't continue to just dump money into something
No,
that's not bringing us
But we
any
can
revenue.
find money in other ways. We can raise money
But
through other avenues. We
So
don't
we're
necessarily
already,
have to pay with city.
we're already losing $50,000 to $70,000 in the Civic Center every year. And now that was gonna cost us another $50,000, $100,000, so we're not making any money on these two businesses. That we're basically funding private businesses that are not city entities.
I agree. I can't argue with you on the fact that we probably shouldn't be spending tax
If
dollars.
they're not city entities, we can't continue to fund them.
But we can't just dump them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We have to find resources.
We have to find a happy medium,
We have to
but
find resources.
we've been
And
trying to
that's what,
find-
and this is part of what this heart and soul thing is all about, is bring the community together and discussing these issues, exactly, and how are we gonna keep them going?
yes, but our job is also to be financially responsible for the city, and dumping money into businesses that are not a city entity is not being financially responsible for the city.
My biggest thing with the museum is, you know, we had this conversation a year ago, and I don't see any growth, I don't see any, movement forward on their part,
Yeah.
trying to do something different to attract more people.
Yeah. In fairness, they have made improvements. They're adding a section that is Strawberry Point History section. They have sort of reinvigorated board members. Like, they're making steps in the right direction. But
Yeah.
they had less than 300 people all last year that's
Right.
in the museum. So, you know, when you start looking at the cost per visitor to the museum, we're talking about significant money. And, you know, so the question is, and I don't have an answer for this, and I'm not trying to sway you one way or another, The question is the museum ever going to actually be an attraction and bring people to town in a significant number enough where, you know, would they ever be able to service 1,000 people, 1,500 people? Like at those levels, you know, now people are coming to our cafes and
Right.
eating lunch, you know, at the bar.
Right.
So those are the questions. I agree with Doug that, you know, I don't think that just cutting it off
No.
would be an ethical thing to do, but I could see like a 3 to 5 year ramp where, you know, it's maybe we cover some of the expense of the irrigation, maybe they cover some of the expense through fundraising, and with an agreement that in 3 to 5 years, you know, our support is done, we will gift you the building, which has value, you know, which they would be able to borrow against if they had a capital need. You know, there's all sorts of ways to do it. So, again, you know, when we're talking about us finding resources, like, you know, I need to know in our goals, like, are we committing city resources, my time, Jesse's time, Public Works time, and, you know, getting all these projects done, looking for grants? Like, I don't think that that's necessarily our responsibility. We're happy to do it if the city council decides that, and that's fine, but there has to be a limit because the return on this investment right now is very low. And
Is it
hopefully we'll
something
get
that maybe like teamwork, like they could look for some grants and maybe if they come up with some, we could help write them and get them, you know?
Which we've offered to do. Like,
Just
any
not in
entity
some
in town,
format.
I've been very forward with any of them. If anybody needs help grant writing, in addition to my salary time here, I'll help any organization in town on my own time, just to better the community and, you know, have somebody that has a lot of experience grant writing, helping out and making, you know, I've said that to, like I said, every entity in town.
I know we haven't, as a council, talked to them, and we have new people up here. Is that something that we could set a meeting up so we could put something in place, or what our long-term goals are, or what we're trying to accomplish? Is that something
I
that we
think
can
what
do?
I need direction on is something to tell them, look, in 3 to 5 years, city support is going to end, and we're going to phase this out. Like, that is a absolute reality. That is a charter from a council that's not going to change in the next, you know, 2 to 4 years. And then from there, have those conversations and try to help them put a plan in place to be able to afford the building, all of the capital needs, get people on the board who can do fundraising, get people on the board who can do, you know, like I made a suggestion of having them do, you know, TikTok content. Somebody I follow on TikTok is a rare book collector. Every day she puts up a video of one item. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers. Their collection in there is significant enough that, you know, a social media presence like that would be, you know.
And that makes money.
That makes money.
It sounds like the problem is they're not wanting to put the effort into trying to help themselves.
It's the change. It's a cargo ship. It takes a lot of effort to get it to change course. But if there was a carrot to chase, and that carrot is we can't continue to spend $50,000 to $70,000 a year in taxpayer money, you know, unless things change, or not unless things change, but we can't continue to do it. The only way to make it happen for you is to make some changes, and you know, and I think that it's a hard conversation to have, but it's a necessary one because that building is going to just continually need work.
Yeah. I agree that we've got to kind of put an end date on it and say this is kind of a timeline that we need to phase out. The city continuing to fund this.
Yeah. If there's a consensus in this discussion to, you know, come up with a phase-out plan, then I'll allocate my time, we'll create a phase-out plan, bring it in front of the city council for input. You know, it'll be very ethical, very slow-moving, but it will put an appropriate, you know, carrot in front of them to know that there's a deadline and things need to change for their own self-sufficiency. You know, and I'm happy to help them forge that plan on my own time. So it's, as far as our fiduciary duty to taxpayers, this is a hard pill to swallow.
And then for every other business in town, we're not supplementing any other business in town.
Correct, and we have had comments like that.
Well, technically, a museum is not a business, so to say. It's more of a attraction.
Like a park.
Like
Yeah,
a
like a
library,
park.
park,
Yeah.
whatever.
It's arts, you know, it's.
Whatever way you word it, we're supplementing that, and we're not doing that for other places in town.
Well, you know, we gotta be a little bit more than just brick and mortar here. We gotta have a little bit of color in our community. And this brings it, but I'm not arguing with the fact that we shouldn't set goals for them to try to support themselves. Get up and running. I'm not opposed to that at all.
Right, so if I'm seeing shaking heads in a consensus, come up with a 3 to 5 year plan to phase out taxpayer support of the museum.
Yes.
But keep the capital improvement, their immediate irrigation need front and center, and make sure that that gets done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then encourage our community to do as much as they can to help with preserving the
Yeah.
museum. So,
Now, they're their own entity with their own board, so it would be inappropriate for me to, you know, like, I will help them create the plan and help them with the loudspeaker, you know, but I want to make sure I don't overstep my boundaries as a city administrator and get, you know, I don't want to give them a mandate and then do the work.
no, but we can ask them to join the community.
Yeah, yeah.
Let us help.
Yeah, all right. All right, and then, same discussion on the Civic Center. Obviously, with the Civic Center, there's a little bit more of a discussion because it's a building that's connected to the library. It's a building that if it goes vacant, you know, we're gonna have to demolish it most likely. There are grants to demolish buildings, you know, so the discussion with the, you know, the Civic Center is, that is also a non-for-profit, but it is functioning as a business. You know, they're charging fees. We would be in a position to donate the building to the entity. The entity has said on numerous occasions that they can't afford to own the building and be responsible for, you know, any of its upkeep. So that is also another monetary decision that this council needs to make about the further investment in that building. Yeah, so.
Well, I'm opposed to doing away with that as well.
Yeah.
I think that should be left to the public. I don't believe we should let any entity take it. I think it is a resource that our community can use. How to support it, I think the taxpayers should be on the hook a little bit for that because it is community building. I don't feel guilty at all about asking the taxpayers to pay a few bucks for that.
Yeah, I mean, the Civic Center is a different discussion than the museum. Like, that is something that has been publicly used. So, yeah, obviously there's limitations to, we rent it out, it is a community space. We have limitations to what we can rent out because of the school schedule, or the daycare schedule and their use. But, again, I don't have a strong opinion on this one way or another, so I'm not looking to sway the discussion. Just trying to put realistic numbers in front of you, and so, you know, when you're answering to the public about why the property taxes are going up, you've got some real numbers to support what some of the real needs are on these buildings.
And when was the last time we reviewed with the daycare, did we do like a rent adjustment with them, what was that, last year, 2 years ago?
I'd have to look at their contract. They have a long-term contract with Steps, so
Okay.
I will have to check and see. I'll make a note. To see when they're.
I think it was this time last year, we were having that same conversation with them about,
Yeah, and they're adamant that
yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
able to
Which is
afford
totally-
owning that building,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And they are putting money into the building.
Yes.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
putting writing and.
Yeah, and they've written some grants and gotten some grant money. We've piggybacked on them and given them what they needed from our end for them to, you know, get those grants. So there is there is a team effort there.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Doug. Like, I mean, to me, the Civic Center is more of a public building, and it is used by a wider cross-section of the population, so
Yeah.
I would have a harder time
That one, it's
pulling the plug on that one.
different than the museum, yeah.
And just having kids in youth sports, you know, like the school, like
Yeah.
learn for basketball,
Yeah.
and things like that. I mean, there's been numerous times where there's just
you live in town to be able to just drop your kid off 2 blocks instead of having to run all the way out to Star. I mean, it really is nice.
And there's community events that happen up there.
What's that?
Community events that happen up there, you know,
Yeah.
so, yep.
It's just, I think, like, you know,
It's
the reality
And
is-
senior citizens use it once a week.
It's used by the community quite a bit versus,
Yeah. All right, so I have a consensus on that, so we'll keep that, again, both of those expenditures are in the proposed budget, so there's no need to change anything there. And then, what are the thoughts on the city goals? Are they ready to adopt, or we're,
I'm fine with it.
Do we think, like, the trees, like, I feel like we've been down that road and it just,
yeah.
like, it's hard to get a board in general, and then we tried a tree board, was not successful.
Mhm.
It's hard to get anybody to volunteer for anything, and then we want to add another board.
So that was all before my time, and I agree with you, it's hard to get a board together. The pool committee has been a great example that it can be done. You know, I've had to chase people to get the meeting scheduled and get the agenda published. So it's not easy, and it definitely takes a lot of time. But, you know, it's, again, you know, having trees throughout town. Where I moved from was considered a municipal arboretum in just 4 square miles. I've never traveled somewhere to look at the trees, but apparently a lot of people came to Oak Park to look at the trees. So I don't really, my duty is to compile the list and put it on there. I don't feel strongly that we need to achieve.
We maintain the trees now, right? The Public Works, you guys maintain the trees?
I mean, well, I see like the tree board being more for like getting grants and that kind of stuff,
Right,
and then walk the sidewalks.
yeah.
So there's something in this, tell us.
Right, or I'm just thinking, can we just make a goal that we plant so many trees a year, and
Try to plant more
we're already
trees. Right.
maintaining the trees, you know, like,
I could go
Yeah.
without the
you
tree.
know, you can
Like,
report
keep
back
the-
where you
keep the
sorry,
Arbor Day,
I will
like,
help you dig a hole. in
The
there.
Arbor Day, like,
I will help you.
on Arbor Day, we
dig a hole
plant
and-
5 trees.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
No,
not like
keep
we're
it-
gonna plant 500 trees in Strawberry,
All right, so
right?
keep in mind, we could create a tree committee that is one city council member, Eric and myself.
Sure.
Like, so we could have, you know, an official committee.
Instead of a board.
Right,
Just to be done
it does
in-house.
look better to get grants if we have a committee, if, you know, it would give us an advantage to have a designation like that, just because you get their stamp of approval, you put it on every grant application.
So a committee versus a board.
Right, and it doesn't have to be a board, it could be, the Arbor Day is fine with, you know, a committee or a board. They look at it as the same, as long as they have legal jurisdiction to decide on tree stuff. So
Yeah.
we're happy to do that internally.
Let's do that.
My biggest thing is, we've lost a lot of big trees in town, and I want to see new ones planted.
Listen, now, when I cancel my homeowner insurance, then I cut that thing down.
It's not your fault, it's fine. But I'm just saying, like, I don't want it to get to the point where
We have nothing.
Yeah.
right.
Well, there is money in the budget to plant trees.
Yeah.
And I could see keeping it in the budget every year. You know, maybe we could get grants for additional trees, maybe we can get grants for equipment. Like, I don't know, because I've not spent 2 minutes researching what's available out there for, you know, tree grants. So, I
I
don't
feel like
know.
you're either at one you're either extremely passionate about the trees,
Yeah.
or you're just like, okay, whatever, leave it in my yard, get
I
it.
love the trees, I don't love thinking about them.
Right. Like,
I
I
think
feel like,
everybody got this for $500, took us 2 years to get enough people to get rid of that.
I think this is just a
Yeah,
little
we
too
just
much
do it
going
in-house.
on right here.
Yeah.
Where are we planting all the trees again?
Your yard.
In your yard.
the trees,
I
the
would,
trees.
aren't they all from inside the right of way?
No, that Black Hills grant can be anywhere on the property.
That one.
And I just assumed they weren't.
Yeah, right, right.
Well.
Yeah, no, it's just a little too much going on.
I think we just do it in-house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so is there a consensus, scrap the Arbor Day but keep the trees?
Yeah, and maybe scrap the community forestry program, because $2 per capita is.
Well, that's the amount of money that's the amount of money that I put in the budget to buy trees.
Do we need that much money to buy trees, Eric?
Yeah. No, we talked about 15 trees a year, and they're expensive,
Okay.
yeah.
We're gonna float your boat, I guess.
Well, the tree won't float the boat, water will float the boat, but the tree will interrupt my kite.
I'm ready to move on.
All right, so I need a consensus on the I'm seeing some yes, some no.
I think just do it, if we can do it in-house, do it in-house.
Yeah, in-house.
Okay, all right.
We are bored,
Is that, okay, all right, that's fine. So I will edit that and bring that back forward on the March 4th meeting. Population growth, everything seems to be, we've had that discussion before. Enhanced recreation options, number 2, is there a consensus on those? Okay. High quality property standards, people are gonna get tickets, so you're gonna have to answer for that when they come.
So we've always, like,
Yeah.
that was the goal always, right?
Yeah.
Like, we've talked about this, I feel like, every year during
Yeah.
springtime.
Oh, we're happy to issue the tickets.
Right.
Yeah, just giving you a heads up in
I
case
know.
you see some of them in the public.
That's fine.
Walkable city, so again, this is, I think, a good overarching goal, but I have to do the inventory and see what this really means, but I do think it's an aspirational goal. And then, community involvement, heart and soul, that's in the budget already. Council involvement, are we gonna do a float in the parade? We have to kind of make a decision soon.
I'm involved in every
You are, I
day.
see everybody.
Doug is involved.
Yeah.
Hannah's in the parade.
Yeah.
Megan is
Yeah.
just, you can ride the vine lane. I am at every event. Do not preach to me.
I'm usually involved, like I'm using on Fusion Flow, like I think
Yeah.
community involvement's good, but trying to say that we have to make commitments to other things when we have other
All right,
things
so
in life.
no float. All right, I'm scratching off the float in the parade.
I think just visibility at public events
Yeah.
is important in general.
Yeah, and there are, like, I was surprised by that comment because I'm at every event and I see all of you at every event. So I was a little perplexed by that,
Yeah,
but
like-
again, it's, so I'll just put maintain council involvement and visibility in public events.
Sounds good.
All right, and then better communication, we can always improve, that's fine. All right, so I'll redo these and bring them on the March 4th meeting.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure, thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, we have the,
Yeah, I know, I'm not a subject.
Oh, okay.
I know.
Sure.
All right, number 14, resolution 2609, authorizing repairs to the city plow truck.
So moved.
All right, motion second.
So Eric can give you the lowdown on the ticking time bomb, literally, on this truck.
Unfortunately, the one we're planning on getting rid of too.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
The safety aspect kind of
Sure.
worries me.
Yep.
You know, not only just in catching on fire when we're using it, but it's gas leaking out of the tank, the heater ignites and our shop's on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, it's really,
Here.
there's not a lot of choice.
Yeah.
What year is that truck?
Oh, there.
06, and how many miles? Not that it really matters, because there's.
20,000.
Not very many.
20,000 harsh miles.
Yep, gotta remember that.
All right, any other questions? Now we'll go to vote. Doug?
Yeah.
Michelle?
Yes.
Megan? Yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Thanks, Eric. All right, other business?
Nope.
Motion to adjourn.
Hold on, hold on.
No, you're all I just wanted to know about the webpage. Who updates that? Are we gonna update it?
Yeah, actually, we're moving the website to a different platform, and that's actually already in the works. So the webpage where it's at is problematic. It uses a very simplistic web interface, so I rebuilt the entire website on a different platform, and the domain name is going to forward
But
it.
didn't you pay Rivals to do this, or no?
Don't get me wrong, I didn't spend $100 on it.
No, I know,
Yeah,
but
no, it
I'm
took
just
me-
saying, we did invest at one time. Did we get our money's worth, or we're just switching it off? I guess is what I'm asking.
The money was in the design, which I've largely kept, like the color scheme, the font scheme, stuff like that. We have a lot of new photography that I'm using on the site. You know, I take pictures at all the events, and so the framework is there. I come from a web background. It took me a couple hours to do the.
So you're gonna be running the page, is that what you're?
Well, we run. They don't run the page.
Oh, I
at all.
didn't know.
Yeah, no, we run the page together. So it's just moving to a different platform. It's going to look a little bit nicer, just a little bit more user friendly. The menu is a little bit more friendly. But when you look at it, you might not even notice that it's a different.
I was looking for the agenda for this week, what made me think of it, and I did not
Yeah.
have it on there, so I was.
Well, the catalyst for this is I went to try to get into the account, and then for whatever reason, I was locked out. And it took me a half a day to get access, and I lost my mind on customer service, and I was yelling, and then I'm like, in the time that I was on hold trying to get in, I basically rebuilt the website elsewhere, so. So anyway, you won't notice any functional difference, it'll look the same, just with better photography.
Exciting. All right, I have nothing else, so if you motion to adjourn, feel free.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, thanks, everybody.